Remember when witches on television did not need wands, spell books, or massive CGI budgets? Samantha Stephens only needed to twitch her nose to captivate all of America. But here is what is strange. What happened behind the scenes of Bewitched was sometimes even harder to believe than the magic on screen. A main cast member suddenly disappeared. Darren Stephens suddenly had a completely different face. Elizabeth Montgomery's real-life pregnancies were turned into part of the story. And that was still not the strangest thing, because behind one of the most beloved sitcoms of the 1960s were secrets, controversies, and stories that millions of viewers never knew about. Today we are going to explore 20 weird facts about Bewitched. Before we begin, hit like and subscribe to the channel. Now let us go back to 1964 and see how Bewitched truly created its magic. So let us begin with number 1. A name change created an entire trend. Imagine one of the most famous witches in television history not being named Samantha Stephens, but instead, Cassandra Stephens. In fact, Cassandra was the name that appeared in the original pilot script. Perhaps one of the writers thought Cassandra sounded more mysterious and more witchy. You know, it is kind of like naming a cat Fluffy, when no matter how you look at it, it seems much more like a Mr. Whiskers. But the network quickly changed direction, like a politician in the middle of an election season. Cassandra disappeared, Samantha was chosen, and looking back, this was probably one of the best decisions ever made. Somewhere alongside sliced bread, color television, and the genius who came up with the programmable coffee maker.
Larry, it's okay, like Samantha says. We like to see you enjoying yourself.
Actually, Samantha was not a completely unfamiliar name to Americans at the time. It had appeared on the list of the 1,000 most popular names in 1958, then temporarily disappeared from the rankings before returning at number 473 in 1964. And then Bewitched premiered. From there, Samantha began steadily climbing the rankings. By 1972, the name had risen to number 137, then officially entered the top 100 in 1976. By the end of the 1980s, Samantha had become one of the most popular names for baby girls in America. And Samantha was not the only name to receive a little magic from the show. Tabitha, the adorable daughter of the Stephens family, also helped create a baby naming trend. Even Endora saw a slight increase in popularity, although fortunately, the number was still not large enough to turn preschools into gathering places for an army of tiny domineering mothers-in-law. So if you have a sister or cousin from Generation X named Samantha, there is a good chance that name was not entirely a coincidence. Perhaps the person you really have to thank is Elizabeth Montgomery and her iconic nose twitch. Number 2, the Bewitched spin-off that almost forgot about Bewitched. Bewitched remained beloved by audiences and continued to succeed through numerous reruns. So ABC decided it was time to create a spin-off. But what surprised fans was that the new show featured almost none of the familiar faces that had made the original series a success. No Samantha, no Darren, no Endora, not even Mrs. Kravitz. The only character to return was Tabitha, but somehow the little girl everyone remembered suddenly became a woman in her 20s, working as a production assistant at the fictional television station KXLA in Los Angeles. The time jump was enormous, and there was absolutely no explanation. Audiences could only smile and accept it. The premise of the show was fairly simple, perhaps. So simple that it played things too safe. Tabitha tried to fit into the lives of ordinary people while hiding her magical powers. Her boss was Marvin Decker, a hot-tempered but kind-hearted producer, played by Mel Stewart. At the time, audiences knew him better as Henry, George Jefferson's brother in All in the Family.
Henry, when I was a kid, I was always asking Mom for a brother. You know how poor we was, so all we could afford was you.
But the person who gave Tabitha the biggest headache was Paul Thurston, played by Robert Urich. He was a confident, smooth-talking talk show host who enjoyed flirting with almost every woman he met. Even so, just 1 year later, Robert Urich quickly restored his image when he found success as Dantana in Vega. Another change left viewers even more confused. In Bewitched, Adam was Tabitha's younger brother, but in the new series, he somehow became her older brother. More importantly, Adam had no magical powers and spent nearly every episode scolding Tabitha for using magic. In short, the character was like a version of Darren 2.0, only even more difficult.
Tabitha, please, don't go over to Paul's. He's not going to change his mind about Andy, and you'll only get yourself fired.
Yeah, well, maybe it's worth a chance.
Meanwhile, Aunt Minerva, a character who had never been mentioned in Bewitched, occasionally appeared to create even more magical chaos in classic sitcom style. If the story was already confusing enough, things behind the scenes were even more complicated. The original pilot was filmed in 1976 with a different actress, a different setting, and a completely different atmosphere. ABC watched it and rejected it. So the production team had to rewrite the script, replace the entire main cast, move the setting to a television station, and start filming all over again with Lisa Hartman as Tabitha. This time they finally got the green light from ABC. But that excitement did not last long. The show tried to revive nostalgia with a series of familiar details. Dr. Bombay appeared. The Kravitzes also returned. Even the opening used real footage of baby Tabitha from the original series. However, none of it could hide one major problem. This version of Tabitha did not offer a story that felt new enough, nor did it have the appeal to keep audiences watching.
Yes, Tabitha grew up to be a full-fledged witch.
The ratings dropped even faster than Endora disappearing after a spell. The show was canceled after only 11 episodes and ranked just 81st out of 104 television programs that season. The theme song, It Could Be Magic, performed by Lisa Hartman, was quite catchy. But looking back, that title feels a little ironic.
Some people got it, some people don't. You'll never know until you try.
Tabitha was expected to carry the world of Bewitched into the late 1970s. But with nearly the entire familiar cast missing, a timeline that was never clearly explained, and the spirit of the original series no longer fully intact, the show felt more like a copy than a true continuation. If Bewitched was the height of magic on the small screen, then Tabitha felt more like a disappearing act. And this time, almost no one bothered to applaud. Number 3. How the nose twitch became iconic. Everyone remembers Samantha's signature nose twitch. It is one of the most iconic images in television history. But what is interesting is that Elizabeth Montgomery never actually moved her nose. What she did was slightly move her upper lip, creating the impression that her nose itself was making the magic happen. To make the effect stand out even more, the production team sometimes slightly increased the frame rate.
It's pretty rich. So I try to stick with Apple when I'm in training. Which I'm not at the moment.
The idea came from director William Asher, who was also Montgomery's husband in real life. And perhaps nothing is more interesting than turning a very ordinary habit of your wife into an unforgettable television trademark. Asher noticed that Montgomery would often unconsciously move her lips slightly whenever the cameras were not rolling. He immediately thought that the gesture would be the perfect detail for Samantha to use when performing magic. Gentle, elegant, and far more subtle than waving a wand in fairy tale style.
I wish I had a swimming pool in my patio.
That small movement quickly became iconic, almost like a signal letting audiences know that magic was about to happen. It was imitated in countless shows, commercials, and inspired millions of children across America to stand in front of the mirror and try to do it themselves. Or, was I the only one who ever did that? All right, just pretend I never said anything. Even so, the effect was never meant to be as spectacular as today's CGI. It was its simplicity, charm, and subtlety that made it so appealing. It was the perfect combination of Elizabeth Montgomery's expressive ability and a little clever filmmaking. Number 4, there were babies in real life, and on screen too. Bewitched handled Elizabeth Montgomery's real-life pregnancies with a combination of classic Hollywood tricks and fairly progressive storytelling, something that was still very rare on television in the 1960s. The timing of Montgomery's pregnancy was also quite unusual. She was pregnant with her first child, William, during the early episodes of Season 1, and gave birth just a few weeks before the first episode officially aired. At the time, no one knew whether Bewitched would survive past Thanksgiving, so the producers chose the safest approach, hiding her pregnancy with every classic Hollywood trick they could use. Handbags were placed in just the right positions, loose dresses were carefully chosen, and camera angles were calculated so precisely that even a yoga instructor would have been impressed. But when Montgomery became pregnant for the second time during season 2, the production team decided not to hide it anymore. Instead, they wrote the pregnancy directly into the script, introduced baby Tabitha, and gave America one of the most adorable little witches in television history.
I'm gonna have a baby.
Good.
You're what?
I'm gonna have a baby.
By season 6, Montgomery's third pregnancy was also written into the story, and that was when Adam Stevens joined the family. Instead of trying every possible way to hide the real-life changes of its leading actress, Bewitched turned them into a natural part of Samantha's journey. Speaking of pregnancy episodes, season 2's And Then There Were Three also delivered one of the show's most memorable moments, when Endora cast a spell on Darren that made him experience what it felt like to be pregnant. It was a very typical sitcom comedy situation, except with a little magic added to it. But behind the laughs, it could also be seen as fairly ahead of its time, subtly touching on gender roles and putting Darren through an experience that normally only Samantha would have to face. From having to hide the first pregnancy to the bold decision to write the next 2 pregnancies into the script, Bewitched turned real-life changes into part of the show itself. And perhaps that was the smartest magic of all. Sometimes the most wonderful thing is not hiding what life brings, but finding a way to make it part of the story. Number 5. The Bewitched Curse. Just a coincidence, or was there really a curse? From the very first days of filming, Bewitched seemed to be surrounded by a dark atmosphere. And these were not just the usual problems of Hollywood. The first script reading was scheduled for November 22, 1963. If that date sounds familiar, it is because that was also the day President John F. Kennedy was assassinated. Although the script reading still took place, the entire cast would never forget that haunting beginning. By 1968, production was once again interrupted after the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., making the early years of the show feel even more marked by tragedy. But the misfortune did not stop there. For many years afterward, Bewitched seemed to be surrounded by more darkness than the spells in the show. Strangely enough, the origins of the series also carried a similar tone. Bewitched was inspired by the 1942 film I Married a Witch, a production that had long been rumored to be cursed because of a series of problems during filming.
It's getting late.
But I want you to know what I am.
All right. All right, what are you?
I'm a witch.
The more you look back, the more chilling the story becomes, as if the supernatural had stepped off the screen and slipped into real life. Alice Pierce died of cancer in 1966. 2 years later, Marion Lorne, who played Aunt Clara, also passed away. Dick York had to live with a severe back injury, which eventually forced him to leave the show. In many scenes, he had to lie down or lean against furniture to hide his intense pain, as well as the problems caused by his use of painkillers. Agnes Moorehead, the actress who played Endora, later believed that the cancer that led to her death was connected to radiation exposure while working on the film The Conqueror in the 1950s. To this day, there is still no scientific evidence confirming that. However, what caught the attention of many people was that numerous cast and crew members from The Conqueror later developed cancer as well. Of course, it is also important to remember that heavy cigarette smoking was quite common in the film industry at the time. Even the 2 actors who played Darren, Dick York, and his replacement Dick Sargent both passed away before reaching a truly old age. Then in 1995, Elizabeth Montgomery died at the age of 62 from complications of colon cancer. From that point on, rumors about the so-called Bewitched curse spread even more widely among fans.
Let's see if I can put the window back together.
Whether you believe it or not, the string of early deaths and repeated tragedies gave Bewitched an air of mystery, completely opposite to the laughter, peaceful suburban life and magical nose twitches seen on screen. Sometimes it is all just a coincidence of fate, but it is not hard to understand why so many people felt as though the universe had looked at all that fictional magic, smiled and said, "Let me show you that real-life magic can be even harder to explain." Number 6. Honey, we replaced the husband too. You know how television shows sometimes just replace an actor and hope no one notices? Bewitched created one of the most famous examples of exactly that. The producers simply replaced Dick York with Dick Sargent, as if nothing had ever happened.
Good evening, Samantha. Good evening, madam.
Darren?
Don't you recognize me either?
Dick York played Darren Stevens, Samantha's constantly stressed mortal husband, from the pilot episode until 1969. But York had been struggling with a severe back injury ever since an accident on the set of They Came to Cordura in 1959. Over time, the chronic pain and his dependence on painkillers became increasingly serious, to the point that his health began causing problems right on the set. Eventually, York was forced to make the heartbreaking decision to leave the show, sending the producers scrambling for a solution, like a witch trying to hide her broom from the Neighborhood Homeowners Association. His replacement was Dick Sargent. Ironically, he had actually been one of the network's original choices for the role of Darren back in 1964, but at the time, he was unable to take the role. Now he finally had the opportunity, but he looked different, had a different style, and of course, Darren felt very different too.
Sam, how many times have I told you never talk in the middle of somebody's backswing?
Sorry.
Okay. Now, what was it you asked me?
Agnes Moorehead, who played Endora, was reportedly not happy at all with the change and did not hesitate to express her opinion. Audiences were not any happier. Ratings dropped, fans were both confused and disappointed, and many saw this as the moment Bewitched began to decline, even before the phrase "jumping the shark" became popular. Dick Sargent found himself in an almost impossible situation. He had to replace an actor who was deeply loved by audiences without any explanation being given to viewers. And the show still had to go on, because when the only two choices were replacing the lead actor or canceling a hit show, hire someone else and hope everything works out was almost the only option. Dick York once called the day he was forced to leave Bewitched the worst day of my life. That decision nearly ended his acting career because his health problems left York unable to take on major roles. Even so, he later found a new purpose in life when he founded a charity to help homeless people. Even while confined to a hospital bed, York continued making phone calls to raise money and encourage people to provide essential supplies. Dick York died in 1992 from complications of emphysema. But before he passed away, he proved something very different from Samantha's magic. Sometimes real magic happens outside the camera. Number 7. A Witch in the Witch City, the statue that once sparked controversy. Decades after Bewitched came to an end, Samantha Stephens achieved something very few television characters ever have: being immortalized with a bronze statue. In 2005, TV Land erected a statue of Elizabeth Montgomery as Samantha, standing about 7.5 to 9 feet tall, with a broom in her hand and her familiar pose. The statue was placed in Lappin Park in the city of Salem. And if there had to be one place to honor television's most famous witch, it would be hard to find anywhere more fitting than Salem, the city closely associated with witches in American history. In fact, this was not just a tourism promotion campaign. Salem also had a special connection to Bewitched.
You can see the Salem police officers are holding back the tourists. Everyone was trying to get a photograph or an autograph, or just say hello to their favorite witch.
In 1970, the production team traveled to Salem and Gloucester to film the Salem storyline. 8 episodes featuring local landmarks helped bring the city greater attention and a large number of tourists. That is why combining Salem's reputation from the witch trials of 1692 with television's most famous fictional witch was seen as an appealing promotional idea. However, not everyone agreed. Some local residents argued that the bronze statue, which cost about $75,000 and was created by Studio Ice, unintentionally diminished the significance of a painful period in history, turning the memory of the witch trials into a place where tourists could take pictures with a television character. Despite the controversy, the statue quickly became exactly what it was originally intended to be: a popular destination for Bewitched fans, nostalgic viewers, and members of Generation X looking to reconnect with childhood memories. Every day, visitors line up to take pictures with Samantha, showing that the power of nostalgia and popular culture can sometimes be even greater than debates about history.
We are going to take a picture with the Bewitched statue.
Under the agreement with the city, TV Land had the right to keep the statue there for at least a decade, while Salem still had the right to remove it if the city later changed its mind. Yet to this day, the statue still quietly stands there, enduring the harsh New England winters and thousands of phones pointed at it every day. Whether you love it or oppose it, the Samantha statue remains proof of Bewitched's special place in American popular culture. It is both a television icon and a tribute to a classic character, while also reminding us that some witches will never disappear, even though their show ended more than half a century ago. Did any of these facts surprise you, or did you already know them? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, do not forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Now let us return to the countdown with number 8. Humor, courage, and the illness that was kept secret. Mrs. Kravitz may have been the nosiest neighbor on television, but the woman behind the character carried a heartbreaking secret that could move any Hollywood writer. Just before Bewitched began filming, Alice Pierce was diagnosed with terminal ovarian cancer. Yet with remarkable courage, she kept her illness almost entirely secret from the production team. Only her husband and a few people close to her, most likely including Elizabeth Montgomery, knew the truth.
You moved the pictures. Now, Mrs. Kravitz. This time I saw you do it. I saw it. I caught you red-handed.
For nearly 2 seasons, Alice Pierce continued to appear with her familiar energy, delivering hilarious moments whenever Gladys Kravitz peeked through the curtains to spy on her neighbors, while in real life she was quietly battling her illness. When her health no longer allowed her to continue, she was forced to leave the production before season 2 ended. The final episode she was able to film was Baby's First Paragraph, which was filmed on January 21, 1966. Just a few weeks later, on March 3, 1966, Alice Pierce passed away at the age of 48. After her death, she was posthumously awarded the Emmy for Outstanding Supporting Actress, a recognition that was both a source of pride and deeply bittersweet. Perhaps if Gladys Kravitz had really existed, she would have pulled back the curtains one more time to see who was walking onto the stage to accept the award.
Mr. and Mrs. Kravitz. Oh, it's been too long.
You think it's too long? Maybe I'll trim it.
Turn up your hearing aid.
After Alice Pierce passed away, the producers brought in Sandra Gould to take over the role of Gladys Kravitz, beginning in season 3, because the show had to go on, even though the entire production team had suffered a great loss. But for many viewers, Alice Pierce will always be the one and only Gladys Kravitz. And after all these years, that has never changed. Number 9. Elizabeth Montgomery's secret alter ego.
Want to hear more of my song? Or do you think it stinks too? Serena. I think it's terrific.
Remember Serena, Samantha's mischievous cousin? The rebellious, party-loving girl who wore go-go boots and always had a mischievous smile on her face. But here is what surprised many people. Serena was not played by another actress at all. It was Elizabeth Montgomery herself. Or more precisely, she transformed herself into a version completely opposite to Samantha, wearing a dark wig, showing off a bold style, and carrying the attitude of a girl who loved to party. What is interesting is that many viewers at the time did not realize it. They had just watched Elizabeth Montgomery as Samantha, the gentle suburban wife. Only a few minutes later, they were watching the same woman as Serena, the rebellious and energetic cousin. Yet somehow most viewers still believed they were 2 different actresses.
She's a real pussycat. Aren't you, Serena? Yes. And one of these days, you are going to be my mouse.
With only a dark wig and a clear change in her acting style and attitude, Elizabeth Montgomery created two completely different characters. That either proves her outstanding acting talent, or perhaps it also shows that audiences back then were not paying as much attention as we might think. To keep the joke going even longer, Elizabeth Montgomery also asked that her real name not appear in the credits whenever Serena appeared. Instead, the role was credited under the pseudonym Pandora Spox. It was a clever play on words, combining the image of Pandora's box with a little science fiction inspiration, enough to make even Star Trek fans smile. Interestingly, this was not the studio's idea. Elizabeth Montgomery herself chose the pseudonym. Perhaps she thought that once you were already playing a witch, adding a little mystery to fool the audience was simply part of the magic. Number 10. The lyrics you never got to hear. Almost everyone can hum the Bewitched theme song. The music has a jazz sound, is easy to remember, and almost never feels outdated. It is the kind of melody that stays in your head, right alongside the opening theme of the Brady Bunch, or those familiar cereal commercial jingles from that era. But there is one fact that many people never knew. The song actually has lyrics, and a complete version was even recorded. Howard Greenfield and Jack Keller wrote the lyrics, while singer Steve Lawrence recorded the full version in 1965.
Bewitched, bewitched, you've got me in your spell.
So why did audiences never get to hear it on Bewitched? According to songwriter Jack Keller, it was a creative decision. He believed that adding lyrics would distract the audience, while the instrumental version, with its bright, sparkling sounds, captured the magical atmosphere of the show perfectly.
Bewitched, bewitched, you know your craft so well.
It has to be admitted that his reasoning was quite convincing. In the end, the version with lyrics was set aside. Steve Lawrence's recording was released only as the B-side of the single I Will Wait For You, and never appeared in any episode.
That brand of woo that you've been brewing took me by surprise.
Meanwhile, the instrumental version remained and gradually became a television icon. Later, several other artists, including Peggy Lee, also recorded versions with lyrics. However, it was not until many years later that fans happened to discover these recordings through record collections and online archives.
Bewitched, bewitched, you've got me in your spell.
And here is one of the versions that was performed on an Australian music program in the 1960s.
Bewitched, bewitched, you know your craft so well.
Pretty interesting, right? Even so, at the time, most viewers had no idea that the Bewitched theme song had lyrics. And perhaps it did not really matter, because many people even made up their own funny lyrics whenever the melody began to play. Now, you know that besides the familiar instrumental version, there is also a version you can sing along to. This is definitely an interesting piece of Bewitched trivia to share in your next conversation. Number 11. The sitcom suburb and a surprising gift for Marvel fans.
2 trees is one too many. Keep the big one, but over there. Oh my, isn't that lovely?
Remember that cozy suburban house where Samantha only had to twitch her nose slightly and everything would be taken care of, while Darren spent every day stressing over advertising campaigns as if his entire career depended on them? But here is what surprised many people. That house was not a real house at all. It was simply a facade built on the Warner Brothers ranch, a place that was like a miniature Hollywood suburb. Originally, the house was built for the series Our Man Higgins in 1962. A few years later, it landed the most famous role of its career when it became the home of the Stephens family. And it was not the only house on Blondie Street. Many familiar houses from television series such as The Partridge Family and I Dream of Jeannie were also located right on this street. Perhaps that is why many viewers who grew up in the 1970s and 1980s always felt that the neighborhood looked strangely familiar, as if they had seen it before in another show.
Water the patient daily, keep the neighborhood pets away from it, and pray.
You know?
Meanwhile, all the interior scenes were filmed on a soundstage. The reason was very simple. Real houses did not have enough space for cameras, lighting, the production crew, and all the equipment needed for filming. Yet the exterior shots still created a perfect illusion of a peaceful suburban neighborhood with neatly trimmed lawns and neighbors who always seemed to be watching each other's lives. Then decades later, something interesting happened. An observant Marvel fan noticed that the familiar house appeared again in the Disney Plus series WandaVision. This time, the Stephens family house was used as the home of Agatha Harkness, as a subtle tribute to the history of classic sitcoms. For many Generation X viewers, it was a moment that both brought back a sense of nostalgia and made them realize just how quickly time had passed. Sadly, all the famous facades on Blondie Street were demolished in October 2023 to make way for new sound stages and office buildings. That also meant that one of the most iconic settings in American television now exists only in memory. But thanks to reruns, DVD releases, and even the Easter eggs that Marvel cleverly included, Samantha's house will continue to live on in the hearts of fans, even though its real-life walls have now brought their historic role to an end. Number 12. The prop room? Not at all. Aunt Clara brought them herself. Aunt Clara was not just a kind, forgetful witch who always managed to make every spell end in a way no one expected. She was also connected to one of the strangest and most memorable details of Bewitched, the collection of antique doorknobs. And here is what makes it interesting. The doorknobs that appeared on the show were not props taken from the studio's storage room at all. In real life, Marion Lorne was truly passionate about collecting antique doorknobs. She spent years searching for them in antique shops, flea markets, and old houses, then carefully brought them home and kept them. Her collection grew to hundreds of pieces in all kinds of styles and materials, turning her home into a true doorknob museum. When the producers learned about her unusual hobby, they immediately came up with a very clever idea. Instead of creating new props, they borrowed Marion Lorne's own collection and brought it onto the screen. The doorknobs that Aunt Clara accidentally brought back whenever she got a spell wrong were real pieces, personally treasured by the actress in real life. This small detail made Clara's character feel much more authentic. Audiences were not just watching a clumsy witch, they were also unknowingly seeing Marion Lorne's real passion in every scene. Perhaps that is also why everything looked so natural. She did not have to pretend to be someone who loved doorknobs, because in real life, she truly did.
See, he's not going to bite you. Now, why don't you just relax, Esmeralda?
Sadly, Marion Lorne passed away in 1968, while Bewitched was still enjoying great success. Until the final days of her life, she continued to bring audiences the image of a gentle, clumsy, but incredibly lovable Aunt Clara. She was the kind of character who made viewers smile every time she appeared, even if only for a few short minutes. Her death left the entire production team stunned. Instead of immediately finding another actress to continue the role, the producers decided to let Aunt Clara disappear from the show. It was a rare choice in Hollywood, but it was also their way of showing respect for the woman who had given the character its soul.
You'll find it in your top coat pocket.
After that, Bewitched introduced Esmeralda, another clumsy witch, to fill the void. But for most fans, Esmeralda never truly replaced Aunt Clara. Marion Lorne brought a unique gentleness, warmth, and charm to the character, something that could not be copied simply with a script or a costume. After her death, Marion Lorne was posthumously awarded an Emmy for the role. Elizabeth Montgomery stepped onto the stage to accept the award on behalf of her late colleague, creating one of the most emotional moments in Bewitched history. It was not just a trophy for an outstanding actress. It was also a tribute to the woman who brought her real-life passion onto the screen, turning a strange collection of doorknobs into an unforgettable part of the memories of millions of viewers. Number 13. Stop motion, wires, and muscle cramps. The real television magic of the 1960s. Bewitched made magic on screen look incredibly simple. Samantha only had to twitch her nose slightly, and instantly, dinner appeared, the house became tidy, and Darren's hangover disappeared as if it had never existed. But behind those seemingly effortless moments was an extremely demanding filming process. To create those smooth effects, the entire production team had to work with an intensity almost like they were preparing for the Olympics. There was only one difference. Instead of running or jumping, they had to stand completely still for hours while everything around them was constantly being changed. Many of the magical scenes in the show required Elizabeth Montgomery to hold the exact same rigid position for several minutes at a time, enough to make even a yoga instructor uncomfortable just watching her. While she stood completely still, crew members quickly moved furniture, changed props, and rearranged the entire set before the cameras continued filming. For more complicated scenes, Elizabeth Montgomery even had to use support devices such as crutches to keep her arms fixed in place. This allowed her to maintain almost exactly the same position without moving even slightly, while everything around her was completely changed. At the time, practical effects were still the king of special effects. Stop motion was used for scenes where characters disappeared. Precise cuts made a messy room suddenly become clean in the blink of an eye. Nearly invisible wires were used to pull objects and make them move around the room by themselves. And carefully calculated turns, timed down to individual frames, allowed actors to change clothes or positions as quickly as a magic trick. Every effect was the result of careful calculations involving timing, camera angles, and the position of every object. And perhaps, it also required a little luck to make sure no one accidentally sneezed or ruined the entire shot at the last second. For Elizabeth Montgomery, that meant holding the same smile and position for hours at a time, as if she were posing for the most important photograph of her life. In return, audiences got to experience a magical world that felt natural and completely convincing. But behind those transformations that lasted only a few seconds were the patience, endurance, and considerable effort of the entire production team. Today, CGI experts can recreate most of those effects in a very short amount of time. But in the 1960s, television magic was not created with computers, but with sweat, almost endless patience, and the ability to stand so still that even a statue would have to be impressed. Number 14, the episode that dared to confront racism in 1970.
It was created in the true spirit of Christmas. The story was written by the 10th grade English class at Thomas Jefferson High School in Los Angeles.
For a lighthearted fantasy sitcom that normally revolved around suburban life, laughter, and magical mishaps, Bewitched took a remarkably bold step in 1970 when it aired an episode with a powerful social message, something that even many dramas at the time had not dared to do. The episode Sisters at Heart tells the story of Tabitha and her black friend as the two face racial discrimination. It all begins after one of Darren's prejudiced clients mistakenly assumes that the two girls are members of the same interracial family. It was a very serious subject for a show where audiences were used to seeing Samantha simply twitch her nose and make every problem disappear.
Why, some of my best friends are Negroes. Why, I'd be the...
Today, many people consider Sisters at Heart one of the earliest examples of what would later become known as a very special episode. These were sitcom or television episodes that used entertaining stories to address serious social issues, a trend that only truly became popular in the late 1970s and continued throughout the 1980s. What is even more interesting is that the idea for this episode did not originate in Hollywood. It came from a high school classroom in Los Angeles. Professional writers then developed it into a complete script. Perhaps sometimes high school students see social issues more directly and honestly than quite a few people working in the entertainment industry. Elizabeth Montgomery also gave this episode her special support. She repeatedly said that it was her favorite episode and once described its message as born of innocence and full of truth. In other words, it was a simple but sincere message that did not need long speeches to reach viewers. The Television Academy also highly praised the effort. At the 1971 Emmy Awards, Sisters at Heart received the Governor's Award, a rare honor for a sitcom that dared to directly address real-life social issues. Of course, not everyone completely agreed. Some critics argued that the way the show handled the story was still somewhat idealistic and sentimental compared with the complexity of racism. Even so, in 1970, the fact that a family sitcom was willing to bring this subject to television at all was already an incredibly bold and memorable step. Number 15. The opening was once sponsored. Hi, Chevy. The iconic opening of Bewitched actually had more versions than most viewers ever realized. And the reason was very simple: sponsorship money. Yes, even the familiar animated sequence of Samantha flying on her broom was changed several times throughout the show's run. In the first season, Chevrolet was the main sponsor. The company did not just appear with its logo, it also had its own extended animated opening, in which Samantha and Darren rode together on a flying broom. When the show later aired in reruns on television stations, this longer version was shortened.
Be smart. Be sure with a 68 Chevrolet.
It was not just the animation, the live-action sponsor introductions also changed constantly. Brands such as Quaker Oats appeared right in the opening, with their logos, advertising jingles, and even introductions created specifically for their products.
Bewitched has been brought to you by the growing family of products of the Quaker Oats Company.
The animated opening was also changed for several other reasons. When Bewitched switched from black and white to color in Season 3, Hanna-Barbera had to redesign the entire opening sequence to fit the new format. By Season 6, when Dick Sargent replaced Dick York as Darren, the animated image of the character was also redrawn to reflect the cast change. Including brands in television programs was actually common as far back as the 1960s, many years before people began calling it by the more sophisticated term, product placement. Put more simply, it was, sponsor the show and we will put your brand on the screen. Because there were so many different versions, viewers in different regions sometimes saw different opening sequences. One place aired the longer version, while another aired the shorter one. That is also why many people have always felt that the opening of Bewitched sometimes looked or sounded slightly different in their memories, especially after the original sponsor segments were removed from later reruns. So we have just explored 15 weird facts about Bewitched. Of the 15 facts today, which one surprised you the most? And if you could choose one character to return to the screen, would you choose Samantha, Darren, or Endora? Leave your answer in the comments. I would really like to know your choice. If you enjoy videos about weird facts and behind-the-scenes secrets of classic shows, do not forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Thank you for spending your time with us. Wishing you good health, lots of happiness, and we will see you again in the next video.